with you, Guy. Maybe just give us a 5 minute rundown of your 12-hour story that you have.
Well, how deep do you want it to go?
Surface.
Okay. So basically, I enlisted in the Navy as a combat cameraman, and so that's how I learned to do video production. And along the way, I got into the Navy intelligence realm and changed my job halfway through and became an intelligence officer. And I was getting my master's degree, and part of that master's program at the Defense Intelligence Agency was to do a thesis. So my thesis was going to be on the Amelia Earhart search from the perspective of the U.S. Navy looking for her. And while I was conducting that research using various archives and things that I had at my disposal, I came across a story of an Amelia Earhart hunter in 1964 named Joe Gervais, who went to Truck Lagoon because he had heard there was a crashed Electra in a swamp there. So he went there and he found a guide. This guide took him to the plane, but the plane was a Japanese Betty bomber, was an Electra. So he was disappointed, and his guide said, well, what about the 15 Americans? And he goes, what 15 Americans? He goes, well, the 15 Americans that are buried underneath the slab, they were killed by the Japanese before World War II, and they were Americans. And it was interesting. So he took them to the slab, he took a photo of it, and described them as being 13 Caucasians, an Asian, and a dark guy. 15 people total, buried face down. Half of them looked like they were wearing U.S. Navy uniforms. And he said, I don't know who these people are. They're killed before the war. It's odd that there are Americans here. But, he just let it go. And then fast forward to 1980, and that same guy, Joe Gervais, is reading a book called The China Clipper, and it turns out that the crew complement of the Hawaii Clipper, which the book describes, which was a Pan Am aircraft that was one of the first to do trans-Pacific flights, had a crew of 15 people, had 13 Caucasians, one Asian, and one Hispanic, the dark guy. So he realized that's who these 15 people were the people from the Hawaii Clipper that vanished in 1938. And he realized that the Japanese had probably captured it and executed all the Americans on board. And so that's pretty much where the story was. And then I picked it up from there. And as Ollie intimately knows, he went up there with us on our fourth expedition. And we believe we located the debris field where the remains are, which is about the size of a tennis court. And so now we want to go back, but we can't go this time until we find the money to pay for 2 archival ancestry dogs. So they're different from cadaver dogs, because cadaver dogs look for bodies that are relatively modern within past few years, or archival dogs look for remains that are around the 100-year point. And Native American tribes use them for when they're going to build a building on Native American tribe land, and they dig down and they find these remains. In fact, the dogs that we were going to use a couple years ago found 2 people from the Donner Party that were up in the mountains over 100 years that they didn't even know were still on Donner Pass. They still found these 2 people. So these are definitely the dogs that we need to find scattered remains. So the idea is to raise the money to go back to this island the 5th and final time. We call it Expedition 5, and use these dogs to recover or locate the remains. And then we have a DNA expert and a sifting crew that will pretty much treat this as an 85-year-old cold case. 2 of the gentlemen on our team, as Ollie's probably told you, are the 2 guys who took down Pablo Escobar and that the TV show on Netflix Narcos is based on, Javier Pena and Steve Murphy. So they're on our team. One of them, Steve Murphy, went with us to the island to interview people. So between that and a GPR guy and excellent filmmaking skills and storytelling skills, we crafted the story as part of either a episodic reality type show, a documentary, things like that. And recently we had Michael Bay, who did Transformers and Armageddon stuff, reach out to us that his company Bay Films would love to produce a show with us, and he would put his name on it. But like everyone else says, we have to prove that the remains are really there before they'll get involved. So again, we've had Steven Spielberg voice interest, and now Michael Bay. Everyone who's got a lot of money, you would think, would give us, you know, 200K, 250K to wrap this up. No one's given us a dime. So we're basically looking how we can raise the funds to just pretty much just pay for the dogs and the sifting crew. No one's trying to get paid $1 for anything. We just want to go out there and solve this mystery. And that's the mystery.